This has been really an emotional time for me. I just wasn't expecting something like this to happen so early on. I got a hedgehog around the end of January, and I named her Luna, and I was super excited going into it. I've never touched a hedgehog before. I've only seen a hedgehog in passing. I've always wanted a hedgehog, especially like growing up. You have Sonic the Hedgehog, and there's just like, it almost seemed like a fantasy animal, one of those very, very exotic animals that you couldn't get. I think at the time when I was looking into it, hedgehogs were actually illegal to own in Arizona, but I think it was like 2013. I would have been 12. I just determined that I couldn't get one. As of recent, it just I just decided to look into it again just to see, and that was pretty much the 1st of January, maybe end of December. I started doing research, tons and tons of research about hedgehogs and their habits and the kind of habitats that they require. For the longest time, I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. This is gonna be impulsive. It's gonna be an impulsive purchase. I'm not gonna do it. And after only waiting about 2 or so weeks, that's when I decided, like, okay, like, I'm thinking about this every day. I really want to do this. There was a breeder I was looking into, and she's about 2 hours drive from me. She was far, but I was willing to go that far. She seemed like a great breeder. She had a really great website set up. That's kind of what made me go forward with it. Is I started looking at the hedgehogs, and then I found one that I really liked and really wanted. I'm like, what if they get adopted by the time I'm ready? Because I was actually going to wait until my birthday, which is in May. By this time it was January, so I knew I couldn't wait this long. So I took home Luna at, like I said, end of January. I drove down to Tucson, brought her back in a little plastic carrying case. Hi! Hello! You are so cute! Oh my goodness. I have a hedgehog in my car right now, and I can't believe it. I can't believe it! Yes! Good girl, yeah. There you go. Go ahead. Go ahead, it's okay. Good girl. Good girl. It really hurt to hold her at first, but then I got the hang of how to hold her. Like, you put back the quills instead of just clonking on with your hands. So I learned not to get poked as much and how to hold her better and how to bond with her more. And so after probably about a week or so, I felt like I was confident with her and she was confident with me. She was used to her habitat. Everything was just like starting to go smoothly. I was taking her out every night for about 30 minutes or so. And then around February, that's when I noticed that she was just very clumsy. I figured it was because of just her balance, the way her weight is distributed. She's just clumsy, that's normal. But I just didn't know what was normal because I had never touched a hedgehog before. I had never actually like seen one in person. I watched a ton of videos, but never really like in action, I guess. Then it just started getting worse and worse and worse. And the point when I noticed that something's wrong is when she would walk a couple steps and then go to her side, and then walk a couple steps and then go to her side. So that's when it kind of just became more excessive than what it was in the beginning. So I could tell it was actually getting worse. She threw up a couple of times. It was very, very scary to see that. To just see her like in pain. So that happened a couple of times, and I figured it was because I saw that she had been eating a litter that I put in. It was a newer litter. It was this one, so it has pellets like this, and I saw that her throat was blue, and I don't know if you can see that, but there's blue pellets in here, so just a little bit of it. And so I figured since it was blue, she's probably eating this and then throwing it up. This is non-toxic, but it isn't good to eat anyways. I probably put that litter in for about 2 weeks before she was actually throwing it up. So as soon as she threw up from that was the first time she threw up. As soon as she threw up from it, I replaced the pellets with paper towels instead. And then there wasn't a problem for a while, and then she threw up again. Wasn't a problem for a while, and then she threw up again. So by that third time she threw up, it was just white and foamy, and that's when I called the exotic vet. So I gave them a call. This was at maybe 1 a.m. This is very late or early. And obviously their hours aren't during that time, but they did answer the phone. They have 24/7 emergency services. And it would have cost me $400 to just get in the door and have a doctor be paged to go to that location. And that's when it kind of hit me. There's a price on Luna. There's a price on my hedgehog that I've bonded with for not very long at this point. It's been maybe about a month or so, but I had grown really attached to her, and so I was very upset. But they said if I went in the next day, then it'd be, I think it was $150 to go to a same day emergency appointment. And so I figured, like, what's one day? It's only 6 hours. She's not throwing up anymore. Like, I was trying to convince myself it's the right thing to do. But I was very scared for her safety, but she was okay after she threw up, but she was really just not being able to walk around and stand at all at that point. And in the middle of all this, I had installed a Ring camera, which is right here in the 3D printed holder. And I had noticed that she had not been eating, at least visibly. She has been trying to drink water, but she wasn't really capable of going on her food bowl and water bowl or motivated to do that. She had no appetite either, which is also why I was scared to wait, because I figured she's probably not eating at this point. She's probably not getting the nutrients she needs. She hadn't been running on her wheel for like maybe a week or two. And I was just really hitting myself for waiting this long when the signs were, in hindsight, there. But I took her in the next day, and I was there for about 4 or 5 hours because it was an emergency. They didn't have a room for me, so we did the checkup outside, went through all of her symptoms, went through timeline, history, and then they brought her back for basically the entire time. So I was sitting there for about 4 hours just waiting for the results, and crying a little bit whenever the doctor talked to me. But basically what we determined at that point is she is having neurological issues. What I've read about hedgehogs is that they have what's called wobbly hedgehog syndrome, and that is, number one, untreatable, number two, not common in hedgehogs that are this young. Luna is only about 4 months old at this point. She was born last October. So it's just, I knew that was a possibility, but I figured I just kind of swept it under the rug because she's so young. It could be that, or it could be something else like a brain tumor, and there definitely is something neurological going on. We just weren't sure why at that point. And so, long story short, we thought it might have been salmonella. Her poop was green and watery, and they did tests for that. Those test results took about 3 weeks to get back to us. When we got blood work back, and we had a culture done which inspects the stool of the hedgehog and basically like grows bacteria to see if there's any fungal and virus, I think, which mainly would be to rule out the possibility of salmonella. By that point, when I got the test results back, I'd already been back there about 3 other visits just to do a checkup on her. Also within that time, she got a scratch on her eye. Not necessarily a scratch either. I can't remember the proper term, but she developed an ulcer on her eye due to like an abrasion on it. And the footage from that night, the night before I had, before her eye was normal, I saw that she was on a corner. I had this cardboard cutout in the corner of the cage, which was right here on this corner, and basically this was a dig box, so I put it in the corner like this, and in the video camera footage she was just stuck right here. She she was able to go in circles around to this point in the cage, and then she just couldn't get out of this area. So she repeatedly was just struggling right here. And this was about in the middle of the night, so I didn't know this was going on, nor did I wake up and hear it. And so out of all like the possibilities, I think it's most likely that she got the thing on her eye from this cardboard. So as soon as I suspected that, I took it out, obviously, and basically her cage doesn't really have anything else in it anymore. And at that point, I already spent over $2,000 on medical and vet bills. And I had done research online, which I know isn't the best thing, but at that point I was just very, very stressed about the financial situation I was in. I was using my savings to pay for this. It was very stressful for me to think about spending any more money, and still that guiltiness of not being able or willing to pay for her anymore at this point. I chose not to go into the vet at that point, and then her eye went to scab over, and there was just a big scab over her eye. I figured that meant it was healing. It didn't have any coloration to suggest that it was an infection, but at this point the scab was completely covering her eye. Fast forward to about a week later, it was scabbed over, but then she actually scratched it off, and underneath she had an eye that just looked like very cloudy, but she still had an eye underneath. Honestly, I believed at that point that it shriveled up and wasn't there anymore, but I was very surprised to see an eye. And I actually had gotten in contact with the vet just to see if there's any dire actions I should take. Is this like life-threatening to her? Now that we can see the eye, is there an infection? And I ended up bringing her in, getting an eye stain, and it turns out there was an ulcer, and they gave me ointment to treat. That was the most recent vet visit that I had about a week ago now. It was last Sunday. Basically, she's been treated for everything she can at this point. She's gonna have that ointment on for another week or so. They said she actually most likely will recover her sight, which I was really surprised to hear. But her eye is very red right now. She has like a little protruding thing out of her eye as well. What I've been having to do in this process is, towards the beginning, when we thought it might have been salmonella, we were giving her anti-inflammatory medication, antibiotics, and then milk thistle. I forgot what that did. I think that's some sort of nutrient. And then, so basically 4 medications, and then also feeding her. So by the first time I went to the vet, they gave me food to give her 3 times a day. So I have been, with the help of my mom, who also lives here with me, feeding her 3 times a day, giving her medication in the morning, and then one of them at night. I did the medication for 14 days and then continued the feeding through after that. So for about a month now, I have been waking her up 3 times a day, giving her food. On the positive side, she's gotten very used to human touch. She's very more relaxed when we go to feed her. It's kind of come to a point now where I can't feed her 3 times a day. She isn't improving. She's most likely, if she does have anything that is causing a neurological issue, it's done its damage at this point. We can't treat it. It might very well be hedgehog syndrome. It might very well be a brain tumor. She is most likely born with this. But the main thing for me was whether it's salmonella or not, because that would have been my fault, because that can take a couple of days to manifest, and that would have been my fault. But the fact that she was born with it, I felt like I had a better case going to the breeder, because she has no obligation at all to do anything for me. There was no contract besides me signing something that's not breeding, so I wanted to make sure I have a good case before coming to her. I asked her if she could take Luna in at least, because I cannot feed her 3 times a day. It's just too much. This is not what I thought I was going into. It was under 2 months. It was about a month and a half when I started having these issues, and I really, at this point, I think it's the 2-month mark, give or take a couple of days or so. So I've only had her for 2 months and she's already having these issues. I know hedgehogs are fragile. I know a vet visit is inevitable at some time in their lifespan, but it's too early for this. I wasn't expecting to go into it this early. I know the vet bills are expensive. They might have been a bit more expensive than I expected them to be, but they do give you a really like a choice of how much you want to pay. They understand your budget. So as far as the actual vet goes, I am very, very thankful for how friendly they were. They really care about Luna. They were asking me for updates, wanting me to call if anything else went wrong with her. Of course, no charge, just giving them updates, seeing if they could do anything. But they've been so great. I let them know that I've spent a lot of money so far, and I just don't want to keep spending money. They suggested a CT scan, but at this point, it would just be whether to find out if she was actually born with this or why she is having this neurological issue, which either way at this point it's untreatable. So there wouldn't really be any point in me doing the CT scan or MRI, and it would be very, very expensive to do it at this point as well. So this is kind of where I've just drawn the line on I can't take care of her anymore. And this has been really an emotional time for me, very upsetting. Wasn't, like I said, I just wasn't expecting something like this to happen so early on, and I didn't realize I'd get attached this fast too. Seeing Luna in pain like that was really upsetting, but she is doing better now. She does obviously still have neurological issues at this point. She can't walk properly, therefore she still can't walk to her food and water even if she wanted to, and she hasn't been able to run on her wheel in a month or so at this point. So I really wish I could provide a better life for her, but I am lucky enough that the breeder is willing to take her in for me, which I'm really thankful because I don't want to have to put her down. I want her to still live a good life because she's only 4 months old. So the breeder is going to get in contact with some of the foster families that she like foster families are okay with taking in sick hedgehogs.